Welcome back to episode 80 of the Block Runner podcast. I'm your host, William, always here with your co-host, Iman.
What's up, Willis?
Hey, man. So
Good
here,
to be with you this fine morning.
yeah, we're awake early this time for
Yeah.
for lots of reasons, but today we really wanted to focus on the DeFi ecosystem, and I remember a few months ago, I don't know if it was before Decentraland's launch or
Of,
after, but
of
we
what? What?
but we mentioned that DeFi is going to be the next craze in this bull run. And
It has to be before because I'm like maybe not. Maybe around the same time because we got into Decentraland like I don't know, like July of last year, right?
yeah,
That's when we found out about it or something like
that's
that.
true. Yeah, that's a good point because we were talking about DAI and making 15% interest on DAI, and like that was going to be our exit strategy,
That's right.
and now like DAI is like at 0.1%.
Yeah, that was like exciting as fuck at the time. I guess. I guess because it was like a new thing, new
New tech.
sector. Yeah, a new sector emerging, a new use case, right?
Yeah,
And I guess at the time, like everybody, ourselves included, was looking for any kind of like positive news because Dell's like during the heart of beardom, like the worst despair you could possibly think of,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
peak of the bear market. So
And
yeah, then that's when we started. I mean, the topic of discussion back then is okay, how the fuck are we gonna get out of this negative sentiment
yeah,
zone? So then we started speculating what's going to drive the next boom. So we had to reference 2017. What drove that boom?
ICOs.
ICO. I think back then you were saying it was just like the natural cadence of like Bitcoin.
Yeah, for sure. I think
That's definitely part of it,
that's part of
but
it.
but the real boom happened because of Ethereum and its ICO cycle,
I,
right?
I think I think Bitcoin has to go through that cycle in order to fund all these things, right? I mean, really, that's what's
Yeah,
happening.
Bitcoin's like an entry into like the market, literally for a lot of people,
Yeah,
just because it's like yeah, it's like the gateway drug into the crypto world, right? Like it's easier to understand for most people than any other crypto. I mean,
yeah,
it's
because it's
simple,
simple.
dude.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's simple, and it's literally listed everywhere. Everything's pretty much pegged to it, so it's like it's the gateway. So if Bitcoin doesn't move, everything else
nothing.
is fucked,
Yeah,
and I think it's
agreed.
gonna stay that way.
But at the
You know?
time, we were looking at DAI, and we were saying that this has to be the next bull run, like the catalyst for that bull run. Obviously including Bitcoin, but we also mentioned that we were sort of skeptical on that claim because there was no speculative asset to these
Yeah,
DeFi
exactly. Yeah, well,
technologies.
like because we knew what drove the mania was pure speculation. Like meaning like you can actively participate, not in the sense that you could stake your money into some kind of protocol and get these like nice 5-6% returns, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's not gonna drive any mania, dude. Nobody gives a shit about that.
That's
Like, I
right.
mean, like, let's be real.
The 20% do care though.
Huh?
The twenty
Yeah,
percent,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But to generate a mania phase,
I
no.
agree.
But
Agreed.
little we didn't know at the time. I don't know why I didn't think they would actually do this, but we didn't know that these platforms like Compound and whatever else was around at the time were going to actually come out with your own tokens.
Yeah.
And how foolish of us to like not predict that, dude.
Yeah.
Literally, all they did is just like they're governance tokens, right? It's
Yeah.
it's a way for their community to
Staking
get in.
and
Yeah,
governing. Yeah. What's interesting is that a bunch of these DeFi tokens are coming out within the last month or two.
yeah, I
Like
think so.
most
And
of
I
them
think
are
I
brand
think
new.
a lot of that has to be attributed to Uniswap for sure.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
that's the real catalyst for this whole DeFi boom we're seeing
Yeah.
because it's introducing crypto assets into the market like at a almost like a pre-sale stage level, meaning like most of these projects they don't have like I mean they're not.
They don't have the platforms of Binance for an IEO or the resources to do an official ICO because an ICO takes a ton of money to do.
Yeah,
You have to go through
exactly.
all the regulatory aspects and
And,
then marketing, which is the most expensive thing.
yeah, and in that sense, like by the time you got on Binance, you know the token's already like so overvalued based on like pre-sale rounds and
That's
stuff
right.
like that.
Yeah, by the time it got to Binance, it's already 30x for the
Yeah.
initial
So
investor,
usually it would just dump
and
as
then
soon
it
as they got
dumps.
onto
Yeah,
Binance. Yeah. So we're seeing the reverse of that. Like as soon as things get on the Uniswap, they're just fucking taking off. It's insane. It's
yeah,
insanity right now.
yeah,
So we can't help but take notice of that.
yeah, for
I
sure.
mean, for all you regular listeners of our podcast and what we always talk about, for
Yeah,
like the last year, we've been like really focused and honing on the NFT space,
yeah, NFT, Decentraland. I mean, this is
Decentraland,
this is our roots.
Metaverse.
I mean, I personally like to talk. I'm the 20% guy. I like the tech. I like the fact that we're eroding the existing financial system with
Mm.
cryptocurrencies. That's my thing. That's my jam.
Yeah.
Uh, but again, what moves the 20% is the 80%, which is like speculation and mania, and
Mhm.
making 100x. Like for
Yeah.
example, Sora XOR. I think in June it was like at $1, and then just a few weeks ago it was at $130.
Yeah.
So over 100x return in a month.
Uh, yeah. And they're not alone. There was a bunch of projects that had explosive growth like that. And again, I think it's attributed to Uniswap. I mean, I'm still exploring this whole sector, but it's like I have 2017 vibes all over again, dude. Meaning like it's like endless. You know, you
Yeah,
could spend all day doing your due diligence on these
yeah,
projects, but by
yeah.
the time you're finished, there's like 10 new ones that rolled out, and it's like fuck. It's like
Yeah,
impossible to keep up. You
it
know,
is. It is.
not impossible, but it's tough. You know, it's
Yeah,
almost like you need like a team. Like it's like assign these fucks
yeah.
3 or 4 tokens a day. Assign him. You know.
So obviously this is not investment advice, but I gotta ask. I mean, you made a good amount of money in 2017 because of your investments.
Yeah.
Like what sort of like what are the criterias that you look at in order to make the decision to invest?
Well, obviously, back then, because I came in around the summer of 2017, so I noticed a couple of things. Like, I noticed, or I felt like I missed the boat on Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
So I never once even thought about investing in Bitcoin. I only bought it, like I said, to onboard myself into the crypto ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
I always had the thought in my head, like, why buy Bitcoin? There's like 1,000 other coins that I got to find that next Bitcoin, that next, potential 100 to 1,000 next
Yeah.
project,
Yeah.
So I was always in the altcoin space. And then, so naturally, I look at Ethereum next. But by that time, Ethereum was already like 1,000x or more, So like I missed the boat on that one too. It's like, fuck,
Yeah.
So you just go down the list. But then I instantly noticed something like the most successful projects at that time were like these platform tokens. So that was at the time that was my strategy, just looking for any new platform project that was designed to solve the issues of Ethereum. So at the time that meant like things like EOS,
Neo.
Cardano, Neo,
The
anything.
China Ethereum.
Yeah, because everyone was trying to catch Ether. And dude, we're seeing this exact same thing again because what drove this market? Like what mooned before anything else currently? Like
Oh, I guess the platform that's supposed to append
no,
Ethereum.
no, Chainlink is what I'm talking about.
Oh,
Like
okay.
yeah, Chainlink now
Yeah, but it took 3 years, right?
so did Ether. I mean, Ether started in 2014. It didn't really start popping off till like late 2016, early
Because of
2017.
the ICO.
Yeah, but the point is like that's kind of like what catalyzed the market's energy. Like it revitalized the market
Oh,
to
I see.
like
I see what you're saying.
yeah, like Chainlink. I think is kind of like leading this whole DeFi charge. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. The Oracle token.
The Oracle token. I mean, we already seen like I don't want to know. I don't want to call. I'm gonna call them copycat projects
Yeah,
because they're
absolutely.
also they're oracles.
Yeah.
I don't
But
know
there's
what the
different flavors of oracles, like oracles
yeah,
that require a centralized partner, right? But
sure,
but then there's oracles that are completely decentralized.
exactly. But you're gonna expect that, right? You're gonna expect after something like Chainlink did whatever it did, 100+X over a course of 2 years. Now it's like a top 10 token. Everybody knows what it is. It's a household name. You're gonna expect a lot of like copycat projects to claim like they're the next Chainlink, just like
See, but
it.
it goes back to what's your criteria for investment? Like if you're a copycat, why would you and I invest in that, right? So that's
there
why
has there has to be some type of either like
traction,
serious fundamental improvement.
yeah. But that requires a ton of research. That requires
Yeah,
like
it does.
20% knowledge and interest in the tech.
You have to really understand like what the flaws are of like, and I did a lot of. I mean, I'm not a technical person, but I did as much as I could. It's pretty obvious to figure out what the problem with Ethereum is. Like, it's scalability.
Yeah.
It's a scaling issue, and that's so. Then naturally, when I see all these other projects like claiming that they have this scaling issue solved, quote quote, those are things you want to like pay attention to, right? And then you kind of like do your due diligence to figure out like which one you think is the best out of all of them.
Well,
But to be honest, you could have picked any one of them and you would have done fine.
yeah.
Back
Yeah.
then.
But I guess what I'm trying to get you to like define is what's the trigger for you to make an investment and what is not worthy of an
Well,
investment? Because you're saying right now,
well,
like in a bull run, pretty much any investment is going to do good enough.
yeah, like towards whenever this market hits like straight manic, like you could not have missed like anything within the crypto ecosystem. Just go open CoinMarketCap right now and look at all the charts from 2017 to 2018. They're
Yeah.
all identical.
Yeah.
They're all bubbles. Every single token was a bubble. It went through the same exact pattern, but the problem is if you didn't make money back then, the problem is you were just trading too much.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You were trying to catch that short term bubble, that this week bubble,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you probably bought tops. You were chasing FOMO and shit like that, so you probably lost a lot of money. So all you had to really do is just buy and hold through that whole cycle. I mean, now you know that because
Yeah. Because
yeah.
experience.
But if what if you're looking for like the truth, this is just like it's all hype,
Yeah.
like that's what I look for. Like what project could potentially generate the most hype? So you look for like buzzwords within these projects.
Like substrate.
Is that a buzzword?
I don't know, but it's starting to be like I'm starting to see it way more often now than
Yeah. Well, because it's like a new thing. See, that's different though. I don't think that's buzz. That's like an actual new
like tech.
concept.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like something. That's like the equivalent of like reading about Ethereum in 2014, their white paper, and seeing like what's a smart contract.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like a technological innovation
Yeah.
that now projects can utilize and like produce some type of product, which is exactly what we're starting to see in Polkadot, which is why that's why we're like we're in, dude. I'm in.
Yeah.
I know you're in too.
Yeah.
Because,
we're definitely in.
yeah, I understand that's what drives booms, like these call them like Cambrian explosion events, like these substrate blockchains and projects and shit. Dude, you're gonna see thousands of them emerge.
Yeah.
It's gonna be insane.
There's already 200 of them, and Polkadot hasn't even launched yet.
That's crazy.
Yeah. That's
And like
think about it. That's 200,
like,
200 different teams working on their own flavor of a blockchain.
That means like substrate must be so simple to use and like integrate into your project. Like if there's already that many.
Well, so substrate. So let's talk about what is substrate.
Okay.
So think of it as being like an Express or another web application framework, but it's used to not for if you build a blockchain, like you would have to like do the equivalent of creating the HTTP protocol, and then you would have to secure that network. And so Substrate just has all of that built in for you, just so that you can focus on what your blockchain is about. So if your blockchain is about doing a currency, like being able to buy coffee, then if you build that blockchain on using Substrate, you don't have to worry about the security. You don't have to worry about the communication between different blockchains. Like all that stuff is already built in and given to you as a framework using Substrate.
Hmm.
And so a lot of these blockchains, these new blockchains, these new DeFi tokens are using Substrate so that it can connect to this hub, this Polkadot network where there's
Yeah,
parachains, and now your blockchain can communicate with other blockchains. So
within the ecosystem, right?
yeah, within the ecosystem.
Yeah.
And so that's what Substrate is, and that's why it's so important. But if you go look at polkaproject.com, it has roughly 200 projects, and 60 of them are Substrate based.
Yeah,
And
man. So what does that mean? Like,
so it just means that for these particular projects, they depend on interchain communication, or they're leveraging an existing protocol or an existing framework for security, or any of these like base layer technologies that you would expect in a blockchain.
yeah. Well, basically, they're betting on this Polkadot ecosystem to fulfill all the needs, a DApp would want, right? Like we're currently, if you're building on Ethereum, which we are, you're encountering catastrophic issues that are,
That's right.
deal breakers essentially.
That's right.
If you don't know, we have a DApp in the process that has generated cells, and that sales activity is grinded to a halt because people don't want to deal with these massive transactions, right? And especially if you're building a game, right,
Yeah.
where there's high frequency transactions happening within this game,
Yeah.
it's not possible, dude.
So
It's,
let me give you an example of if you're building a blockchain, you have to inherently build in some consensus algorithm in order for your blockchain to work, right? If it's going to be completely decentralized, you have to build some consensus algorithm for that. So with Substrate, you don't have to do that. It's built into the framework, and then networking is built into the framework, and the efficient deterministic WebAssembly runtime, all that, the development code, the platform for all that, it's already built in. And
mm,
so again, it just helps you build that blockchain that you want, that specific use case that you're building a blockchain for. Well, all this other stuff is already inherent into what you're building on top of.
mm,
So and then so the main reason why a lot of these companies are using Substrate is because it integrates directly to Polkadot. So as soon as Polkadot is released, your blockchain is running a parachain, which is a parallel chain that can communicate with the entire Polkadot network. And so what's interesting about Polkadot is that Gavin Wood, who co-founded Ethereum, is building Polkadot, and he's been building it for like 3 years now. And
yeah,
they're barely about to launch the project, which is good from an investment standpoint or a speculation standpoint.
yeah. Like you like to see projects prioritize, the tech before any kind of like mass marketing priority.
Yeah, because the alternative is some company who's really pushing these buzzwords and not building anything, and they're just banking on people investing in their coins so they can just pull the rug out of everybody.
Yeah, yeah, and that contributed to a lot of the stigma of this space. Like, just people were getting rich too quick, with the ICO model. Projects, yeah, they had all these grand visions, but as soon as you give them $50 million, all of a sudden their incentive to really deliver just goes down the tube
Yeah,
because they already got the money. Like, they didn't sign a contract where they had to deliver you anything. It's
yeah,
just kind of like, so that's why the ICO model is not
yeah.
keen.
I mean, all the more reason to invest in the right projects. Like for example, Polkadot. I mean, Gavin's done it once with Vitalik, right? And
Yeah,
so if he builds something else, you would imagine that it's better than his previous project, just because he's got more experience, more knowledge.
yeah, you would think so. I mean, you would think like like Vitalik probably would do something along like I'm sure he knows like he could have done the same thing, uh, but he can't just abandon Ethereum like that. Like he has an obligation to correct whatever errors they have. Plus it's got to be a bitch to kind of like even attempt to generate that kind of network effect that Ethereum has.
Hmm.
So
Oh, for sure. Yeah, but
yeah,
then, but you look at Chainlink, it went from being dust to being top five,
yeah, that's true. I mean, it could happen. So
and Chainlink is just an oracle. So that's a fancy word of saying a an established method to supply a smart contract with information.
let's see what Chainlink was another first mover though. They were like the
Yeah,
first of its kind.
yeah.
It's always these first movers that So that's something you want to identify then as like if you're looking for attributes and what to invest in or
Yeah.
like something with like a first mover advantage. It's usually
See,
promising.
but to do that, you'd have to do a ton of research and like, because if you don't know anything about smart contracts or how they work, how are you going to identify the fact that smart contracts need a source of information where you don't have to trust where that source came from?
Hmm.
Like, how do you know inherently that's what's needed unless you're working with smart contracts directly?
Yeah, that's right.
So it's tough to look at Chainlink and be like, oh shit, this is actually needed.
Yeah, that's where like the people who actually understand the tech have the advantage, right?
Yeah, and we're able to see this from a different perspective because we are actually building smart contracts, and we're realizing that a lot of the information that we're putting into smart contracts are from our own perspective
Hmm.
versus a decentralized perspective, if you will.
Hmm.
And so we're seeing directly the need for an oracle for some of the stuff that we're doing. Now, is it hypercritical? Are we like managing people's DeFi tokens? Like no. So it's not hypercritical for us to use Chainlink, but we see why it's needed.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Yeah, when you're actually building something and you know actually using this technology, you're gonna notice the flaws in it. And in some cases, like we're always doing that ourselves. We're like, man, if only such and such existed,
Yeah.
like this would be a lot smoother. And then we find out like, well,
uh,
it is being built by
yeah.
some team out there.
Yeah. And then we got to figure out whether it's like a scam team or not, or scam token or
Exactly.
whatever.
Yeah. How things, that's how things come about. People just they experiment with these primitive ecosystems, and they discover these flaws, and then they try and fix them. And that's it. It's
Yeah.
that's how it's as simple as that. You know.
Yeah.
But like you said, so yeah, the first movers are usually the ones who you know are truly like the innovators, and they're the ones who really tried to solve the problem first. So that's why they tend to be projects with more longevity, I guess, because they're genuine.
Yeah. They're genuine. They're the
You know,
20% guys like actually building like tools and useful
yeah,
technologies.
yeah. Usually the ones that follow that first mover, they're not so much. They're
Yeah.
more like the capitalists of the ecosystem. Like they're trying to
Yeah. They
run with that.
capitalize.
Yeah, they're trying to ride that wave that
Yeah.
that first mover created.
That's right.
So yeah, you're right. So I mean, it's not like the first movers are out there with a sign like we're the first mover.
Right. Right.
You have to actually understand that these technical flaws and all these.
That to outline some parallels. I mean, it wasn't until Corv made the block runner game and deployed on Decentraland that he realized that there's a lot of holes and flaws in a landowner deploying anything in Decentraland,
Hmm.
and that's why he made MetaZone to make it easier.
Hmm.
So a lot of
Yeah,
these. So I'm sure the guy who made Chainlink, and kudos to him. I'm sure he had a ton of experience making smart contracts, and he realized, you know what, there probably needs to be a decentralized way to supply information to these smart contracts.
yeah,
And Chainlink happened.
yeah. There you go. And like, yeah, you could. I mean, if you're just like a speculator, like if you listen to me, like and just ignored any kind of following act, that would have been stupid because there's what's out there now. What's called like Bend or something like that.
Yeah.
One of these tokens is
Well, there's different flavors of oracles, right? There's like completely
Yeah.
decentralized. There's trusted source oracles.
Yeah.
So it just depends on like what you need and how fast you need it and whether it needs to be the information has to be decentralized or not. Like it just
Hmm.
depends. And then now we have governance tokens as well. Governance like protocols and models. Like for example, CBDAO. It's like a sandbox of governance tokens and different methods to govern a blockchain. And like it with CBDAO, it's the source you go to. I mean, at least that they're attempting to be the source you go to see which happen to be the best tested governance models for any blockchain. And so instead of from the ground up building a governance model just out of thin air from arbitrary like information, you go to CBDAO and see what has worked for other projects and you implement that system onto your own blockchain.
So, like, what are the metrics they use to determine like what's a successful DAO governance model?
Well, one of the metrics would be how often people participate in a vote,
Oh yeah, that's a big one.
right? Well, we're experiencing this in Decentraland. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sure there's been many votes where less than 20% of mana holders were voting on anything.
Hmm.
I mean, what's the incentive? Like, I mean, unless you own a bunch of mana and you're passionate about this vote that's coming up, then you're going to stake your mana to vote. But other than staking to vote, there's no reason to stake it. And so part of the reason why some of these companies are coming out with staking models is that once it's staked, you're earning some interest on that stake token, but on top of that, you can vote. So therefore, you have more likely chance of voting because it's already staked.
Now, is the time element to that staking important or not?
Well, it just depends on how they implement it, but I would imagine.
Yeah, I would prefer, like, if it were me designing, you know, who or determining who, like, which votes represent, um, like, like who do you want to have the most voting authority?
Yeah, but then that goes
In a
back
governance system.
to that goes back to like a governance model based on what you're trying to govern. Like I know from our perspective, we know enough about Decentraland to understand what we think is right in terms of a vote, and therefore, because we have so much experience in that, and I'm talking in relative terms, not saying that we have a lot of experience, but I feel like the things that we say from a technical standpoint that Decentraland needs to focus on, like for example, focusing on a developer's platform rather than anything else. Like
Mm-hmm.
we think that's what Decentraland should be working on, and if there was a vote, that's how we would vote. And
Mm-hmm.
and and our what we say should have more weight than a guy holding mana. I mean that's what we're saying. That's how the voting should work in Decentraland if everything was perfect.
How would you determine that? Why do you think we should?
Well, I know that's the problem is that well why
Yeah,
us? And
yeah.
why should we have more weight than anybody else? And that's the underlying issue. It's like we can't really pinpoint from an objective standpoint why us. I mean, other than if you want to go into like, well, we built a product, we moved so much mana, and we moved more mana. Let's assume that we moved more mana than anybody else, just for the sake of the example.
Mm-hmm.
Um, should that be the governing like metric for having more weight versus somebody else? Maybe, maybe
Yeah.
not. Maybe it is for like business from a business perspective. Like if you're looking at a vote that has something to do with like running a business in Decentraland, then yeah, maybe we have more say than other people do.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to maybe wearables, we don't have any say.
Yeah, because we have no experience in that
Yeah,
realm, at least not yet.
right.
Yeah, so see, these are like super specific
Yeah,
governance.
but this is just
You
an
know.
example of a governance model that needs to be built for Decentraland because they're building it themselves, dude.
Hmm.
Decentraland is building this model all by themselves. Now, of course, they're using existing technologies to execute, but
Hmm.
nonetheless, they're coming up with this governance model on their own. They have to figure this out on their own. Now, with CBDAO, ideally, they could go to CBDAO and see what has worked, and here's how we're going to do our governance model, and add that to their pool of options for other companies to use, and see what ends up working and what doesn't.
But I just don't understand how like these proxy DAOs can somehow like adequately represent what's going on in Decentraland. You know, like an actual full fledged ecosystem with like a diverse economy, and there's like tons of different SDK features that need to be accounted for when it comes to like governance decisions and stuff like that. There's no way you could replicate that on. I don't know how the fuck these CB DAOs like.
Well, from a metaverse standpoint, there are other metaverses. Like, there's a new one. Have you seen ETHverse?
I've heard of it.
ETHverse is Minecraft on the blockchain, like literally, except it's not the actual Minecraft.
Oh,
Uh,
so it has nothing to do with Minecraft, right?
I don't think so, but it looks like it.
Shit.
So
So what does
this is
that
the
mean? It's like they
so
had a land sale and everything, just
no,
like
no. So I don't know. I haven't researched it because
well, we
to
have
up
to now.
to
Yeah.
upstart, a world like this, it's just difficult. So,
Hmm.
but anyway, the point is that there are going to be other metaverses who are trying to do a governance model, and without some sort of like uh, place to go and see what governance models have worked, you're just always all these companies. Every time you start a blockchain, every single time you have to come up with your own governance model arbitrarily out of thin air.
Hmm.
And so I sound like I'm shilling CBDAO, but what I'm saying is
No, I'm
we,
trying to understand. I'm
we,
just trying to understand it. Like
we
it
see
sounds
we see a
important.
problem because we're in the problem, and
Hmm.
therefore we see that CBDAO could be a solution because we see the problem inherently, like in the stuff that we do. Now,
Hmm.
if you're not in Decentraland, or if you're not in a community where there's governance is like actually important, you're not going to
Hmm.
see the CBDAO token as valuable because you don't need it. Do you see what I'm saying?
I just so what does the token actually do? Like, who's it rewarding in
Well,
the
so
CB DAO?
I'm just giving an example of like having to see a problem firsthand and identifying something like Chainlink way before
Oh,
Chainlink
okay. Yeah. Yeah.
explodes. That's what I'm
Yeah.
trying to
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to go into CBDAO, we can go into it, but that's like a separate governance topic.
Like it's like a whole separate
Yeah.
time. But you're saying it's the first of its kind. Like they've identified an issue, which is
Yeah.
these DAOs.
Yeah, and think about it. Just us talking about it, we know it's an issue. Every single
Yeah,
every single blockchain has its own governance model. Every single one is completely different, and it's completely arbitrary. It's like,
and a lot of them have failed
and
for
a lot of
sure.
them have failed.
The
Yeah,
governance.
and it's like, well, why should I only get this amount of tokens by staking when this other blockchain is getting that amount of tokens? Like,
Hmm.
all of it is completely arbitrary.
Yeah, that's interesting. I just wonder how that interface is. Like, what's it gonna look like? Like, what are they displaying? Like, is it
Yeah,
like a
I don't know.
marketplace of like DAO activity, or like I don't know. Like, is there a volume of like DAO
Well,
activity,
I
or
think also, if I remember correctly, CBDAO also participates as a community member in all of the communities. So, like, if you own a CBDAO token, you can vote, I think, in every single community that's connected to CBDAO.
hmm.
So you're incentivized to participate in these governance, like voting mechanisms.
Hmm. So
So,
Decentraland could theoretically like partner with the CB DAO.
mhm.
Uh, yeah, just what does that do? I
Well, it just
mean,
increases the chance of people voting,
okay,
but it also dilutes the value of each vote, since CBDAO token holders aren't necessarily running around Decentraland, right?
Yep.
So
It's true.
again, this is just an example of
Yeah, 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 yeah.
why everyone has to do their research.
Mhm.
And especially if you're in a community like Decentraland, you inherently know its problems, right? One of them is governance. Obviously, another one is something unrelated to Decentraland, which is Ethereum transactions and fees, gas. So knowing this, use this as an example to go and research solutions that are being provided out there in the marketplace. And then if that solution is adequate enough, then it seems like a good time to invest. Of course, not investment advice, but just like a strategy in terms of like how to think about this stuff.
Yeah, I agree. See,
It,
but this
it
is just pure fundamental
yeah, fundamental
analysis,
research,
essentially.
yeah. And so then we go back to Polkadot as like, well, why are we looking to Polkadot now? It's like, well, we're looking to Polkadot now because so many blockchains are starting to use it. So it's like, well,
Mm,
what is it? So Polkadot empowers blockchain networks to work together under the protection of shared security.
mm,
So now, if now think about this, if you start your own blockchain and let's say it's a proof of work, just because you decided to use proof of work, you could easily get a 51% attack for several years because your blockchain is not going to be bigger than Bitcoin or
mm-hmm,
Ethereum, right? So you can easily get a 51% attack and completely ruin your good product, let's say.
mm-hmm.
And so using Polkadot, you can create this new product, this new blockchain, new service, whatever it is, and you don't have to depend on like securing your own network. How cool is that?
Sounds super cool, dude. So what do we do from here on out is the question, you know?
Well,
I mean, obviously we're going to just do our own DD like you say. Um, but as far as like,
so
should we start reviewing all these Polkadot projects? Because I mean,
there's
it's going to be like
tons.
sifting through garbage to find gems. You
Yeah.
know,
But that's part of
that's
the
part of the
work.
process.
Yeah, I mean that's part of why
But
you
even
need to do it.
yeah, but even sometimes garbage is like valuable in this, space.
Yeah.
In the sense that it's going to have its moment, its shine, not based on like um, fundamental properties, more like pumpamental
Yeah,
properties.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
that's like a whole
So
class of
yeah,
on
that's
its in
something
itself.
that's something else to talk about. I mean, if you're
Yeah,
if you're
well,
in it
what?
to make money, then you can invest in shit coins all day and probably make a ton of money.
Yeah, you don't have to know a goddamn thing about the
Yeah,
tech, honestly.
yeah.
But is that something we wanted to like promote and like?
Well, that's the thing. It's really up to the listener, up to anyone who's listening or thinking about investing. It's like,
But
you,
it's up to us though, because like the next time we do this, we could just literally just pull up a list of like Polkadot tokens, just go down the list one by one, and just make a whole video on each one.
well, yeah.
You know,
I think that's valuable just because in the next year or two, everything's gonna start going up, and I don't know if you end up making money, like it depends on how you look at it. It's probably a good thing. Now, if you ended up making money on Yam, for example, so
yeah,
Yam was a mistake. It wasn't a scam, I don't think. Yam crashed because they did a rebase and they ended up introducing like an octillion amount of tokens into their circulation.
mm.
And so and the value went to zero, right? Almost instantly within 10 minutes. It went from like $150 to like almost $0 in 10 minutes.
Ouch, fucking
So,
wrecked, dude. Whoever's in that one, feel
yeah.
bad for you.
But some people, it started off at $15 and it went to like 150 within a day or so or 2 days.
Yeah.
And so some people made some money, right? Some people sold at $150.
Yeah, I don't know if Yam like introduced the concept of yield farming or not. I don't think it did,
I don't
but
think so.
it definitely like rode that coattail of that trending buzzword within the DeFi space, like yield farming.
Yeah.
You know,
Which
like
is
these are these.
odd. I mean, yield farming is just staking your tokens.
Yeah, they make it sound way cooler though.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? They came up with a nice, sexy word
yeah,
for it.
marketing term.
Yeah, yield farming is like, man, this is like you got to get in on this. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah, because you,
And,
you buy a bunch of tokens and then you use an interface to stake your MakerDAO or your compound or whatever. You stake it and then now you're yield farming. As
yeah,
if that is going to generate you more money than like gambling it on another coin.
that's right. But
Now, it makes sense for the person that has 100 Bitcoins, and if you could yield farm Bitcoin, then hell yeah, that's what I would do all day. Like
mhm,
if I can make, 50 grand on yield farming a year with Bitcoin because I have 100 of them, then, why not?
you're signing up. You're
Hell yeah.
signing that dotted line for
Especially if it's
sure.
completely decentralized and I'm always in control of my 100 staked Bitcoin.
Hmm.
Dude, I'm down 99, man.
That's right. Well, that is the exit strategy. So,
Well, yeah, that is.
but I mean, but these are if we're gonna become these pump mental guys, then we have to keep looking for all these emerging buzzwords and these trendy topics of discussion, right? Or do we focus on the tech? I mean,
Well, I mean, if we focused on the tech, we would have found Chainlink back in the day and we would have invested because we would have understood
yeah,
and it would have netted a positive gain for us had we held, right? Because we
yeah,
did hold Chainlink tokens in the past.
we did. But I mostly did off purely off of hype. I literally still don't understand what Chainlink does. I mean, I get the gist, obviously.
Yeah.
We've had those discussions, but it's like,
Well, I'm
yeah,
looking at Chainlink in Polkadot and Chainlink's right there. And it
yeah,
says, well, it has a long description, but Chainlink is a decentralized Oracle network that enables smart contracts to securely access off chain data feeds, web
yeah. That's
APIs, and traditional bank payments.
yep. I mean, I knew that.
Yeah.
Like that's literally the
Yeah,
limits of my
but that's the
understanding as
thing is
the
if you
purpose of
only
Chainlink
know
is.
that, it's not enough to make an investment in Chainlink
Hmm.
because you look at this and be like, who needs this?
Yeah.
Right? Well,
Well,
all
that's
smart
that's
contract
how
developers need this.
that's how the majority of people thought back in whenever this like in 2017, 2018. Because that wasn't the trending topic at the time. You
Yeah.
know, or nobody understood the need for oracles. Like at the time, we were still fixated on the scaling issues of
Yeah.
Ethereum. You know,
See,
so
but we go back. Yeah, scaling is definitely an issue, but it's no matter what, it's always going to be an issue. You
mhm.
do a million transactions per second, somebody's going to clog the network doing
Yeah,
something stupid, right?
yeah,
Another game is going to clog a million transactions per second.
hmm,
So then what do you do? Then you complain about a million transactions per second not being enough, and then what do you do? 2 million, 10 million. It's always going to be a scaling issue. Remember we talked about it in our last podcast is that even centralized services from IBM and AWS and all these web services, these service providers, they still go down when there's a lot of traffic on somebody's website.
yeah. But regardless, like I mean, all you have to do is make that claim, and it's sufficient to, like you said, if you're just trying to make money in this market,
Yeah.
like the claims sometimes are, good enough. But
Yeah.
yeah, like currently, the Polkadot is what has my most attention. Um, it's an unfortunate name. You know what I mean? I'm not really sure what the purpose of the Polkadot is, like why they chose that name, but I don't know. Maybe they just thought like it's such an awesome project. Like, who gives a fuck? Like when they were
Yeah.
thinking, what's the name of this thing? They're just like, dude, just call it Polkadot. Dude, who cares? It's like maybe to discourage like early FOMO or something. Because like for a project this big, I think like they're just now listing on Binance. But
Yeah.
I think they ICO'd like 3 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, in
So like,
2017. Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah, they
I
raised like
mean,
40 million.
yeah, but like you compare that to a project like EOS, like
4 billion.
4 billion. But they had a year-long ICO and they were on Binance pretty much the whole fucking time. Like like
That's
they're
true, man. That's a good distinction.
yeah.
It's like
So like Polkadot is. I'm sure they would have no problem getting listed on Binance 3 years ago.
Yeah.
But why weren't they? Why haven't they? Why are they just now,
They
targeting these major exchanges? Like,
yeah,
were they intentionally trying to go like
and they just released their token too.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, it's like
yesterday.
yeah. So I mean, is that like a buy signal? I don't fucking know, dude.
Well, I would think so. I mean,
Yeah,
this is
I think
as ground as it's gonna get for Polkadot.
I would think so too. I mean,
Yeah,
if we're right,
and this is just us like talking and thinking out loud because as much as you can do research, you never feel comfortable. Like you never feel like, oh, this is a home run, but it's gonna take 3 years before it like skyrockets. Like
yeah,
you never know. Like, does it make sense to stake your money in a project that's gonna take 3 years to skyrocket? For most people, that would be a no. But then again, Bitcoin's it's an 11-year-old project and it's still going.
yeah. I don't think you have to. I don't think we have to wait 3 years for anything at this point.
Well, maybe not right now
Yeah,
because we're at the beginning of the bull phase.
potentially. I mean,
Potentially,
we'll
yeah.
see. We'll see.
I mean, what
I
confirms
mean,
it? A $15,000 Bitcoin?
new all-time high Bitcoin. I think.
Damn, that's gonna take a little bit more time.
I'd say about probably
Another year?
another year, 8 months to a year. But I'm not in any rush, dude. I just wonder if this whole DeFi movement can sustain until then.
Yeah, and part of this, like going through this, like in for you, really the second round of like a bull market is understanding or being vigilant, always knowing exactly what's going on in terms of what the pulse of the market is doing. Like
Oh
right
yeah.
now, I wouldn't say a lot of people are talking about Polkadot, but it isn't an obvious thing right now like Ethereum is obvious or Bitcoin is obvious.
Oh yeah. That's the way it's supposed to go down, though.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah, if you're paying attention and you recognize the potential for this thing,
Yeah.
that's that's your entry point. If you're looking to make a smart investment, you know. But
Yeah, and if you go to pools.fyi,
hmm
you'll see all the different Uniswap tokens that are having a ton of volume in the last
mm,
24 hours. So that is a good enough indicator for you to do research on that particular token as well. Is
yeah, we're gonna have
because
to do that, or at
yeah,
least like
and
make some videos of
and
that.
that's like a what do you call it, like a routine that you should do like probably starting from today. Is that every day just look at what the volume is for these tokens on Uniswap and just see what they're about.
Yeah, dude, let's do that. Let's create like a template of like shit to break down for each of these projects, and I'll put them down on my nifty whiteboard here. Like from
Yeah.
now on,
It's
I'll buy a new set of markers, and like we're just gonna run down like a checklist of like.
yeah. Yeah, I mean like
That way we have a log of like our own DD, and maybe it'll be helpful to people who want to understand the process. I mean, we're not saying we're experts.
yeah, do you want to are you talking about making this public or cuz we already started a Notion document
Well, yeah,
on
that's
this
what I'm
stuff.
saying. Like if let's say in the future we want to feature something we're interested in, which most likely will be like a Polkadot project, right?
Yeah.
Then we could just break it down live on air for the world to see. What do you
Oh, I
think?
see. Yeah, 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 for sure. Like,
Yeah,
well, the first one we have to do is Polkadot just by itself. Like, what
let's
is
do
it?
that.
Why are so many people using it? What are the implications of having these blockchains communicate with each other?
Mm-hmm.
Which should be kind of a dumb question. I mean, it's vastly important. Imagine
Mm-hmm.
staking your Bitcoin and earning interest on your Bitcoin without having to trust a centralized service because some services do allow you to earn interest on BTC, but you got to trust these guys. And
Yeah, see, it's tough to like weed through these projects these days because all of them are aware of like what the market is looking out for as far as like back in 2017 it was like you had these fundamental uh I don't know, like attributes per project that you would like check off the list in order to kind of like prioritize which ones you wanted to invest in at the time,
Yeah.
or which one you expected to perform best out of like a pool of ICOs coming up, right?
Yeah.
So you could literally just put down like you analyze the team, you analyze the tokenomics of it, like how many, like the percentage of the tokens going to the team as opposed to how much is left to the public, things like that, like little variables,
Yeah,
you
that's
know.
true. The tokenomics, they do affect. Because like if a tokenomics document told you that they were going to release like 50 million new tokens for the team
Yeah,
tomorrow, you would
yeah,
expect the price to go down.
yeah. A lot of projects these days are they're different. You know, back then it was like because no one was aware of like the repercussions of that
Yeah.
model
Yeah.
back then. But now we're like a little more educated and we expect different things.
Yeah.
Like we expect like funding locks and shit like that for teams these days. Like a team can't unlock their funds for like a couple years down the line as like an incentive for them to actually build a product, things like that.
Yeah.
You know, like stuff like didn't really exist like that in 2017. But if you were to break down individual projects, I think that's a pretty important metric you'd want to look at.
Yeah.
You know,
Exactly.
whether or not a team is following these like
That's true.
expected,
That's
like
true. If a team had access to 50 million tokens of their project
mm-hmm.
and they had full access to it and they can spend that money whenever they wanted to, that was probably
I,
more common in 2017 than it is now, where you could lock up some of those funds.
exactly. Yeah. So like if I were creating like a
But here's the thing, I man,
mm-hmm.
where the technical aspect to this comes into play. If you're technical enough, you can go and verify these claims on the smart contract. If you just read their Medium post that they're saying that they're locking up 50 million tokens for the next 10 years for their team,
Mm-hmm.
that's not good enough. Right? A Medium article, these guys could be scammers and saying these things and saying we're locking it up when they're not.
So then you're saying another metric needs to be like an actual,
Technical verification.
yeah, there you go. Technical. So what is that? Like
But
going
even
into their
then,
GitHub repo or something?
yeah, basically, but if you want to go that deep, you'll have to read the contract yourself. But because we're on the internet, there are several technical people who are doing this due diligence and probably writing their own Medium article, whether or not verifying these claims. So what I'm saying is just Google it.
Mm.
But yeah, that has to
Okay.
be. I mean, this has to be verified. I mean, if you go look at Chico Crypto, he actually goes into the test network like Kusama
Mm-hmm.
and looks at all the projects that are in Kusama and goes and finds Medium articles about these different projects and actually tests these on the Kusama network.
Is that something we could look at right now? Just real quickly?
Well, what do you want to
Or,
see exactly?
well, exactly what you just described. You said Kusama.
Yeah.
What is it?
So
What's
so
the
Kusama is I have it right here.
Kusama.io or what?
No, the
No.
Kusama. It's Kusama.network. But Kusama is an early, unaudited, and unrefined release of Polkadot.
Yeah.
Kusama will serve as a proving ground, allowing teams and developers to build and deploy a parachain or try out Polkadot's governance, staking, nomination, validation, functionality in a real environment. So remember how just to give some parallels in Decentraland, you have this preview of your build, but then you have
Yeah.
the actual deployment in Decentraland. The
Mm-hmm.
preview and the deployment are not exactly the same. There are some glitches and differences between the two.
Mm-hmm.
So to give you a parallel, an analogy is that Kusama is Decentraland for real, but it's just a test network.
Mm.
So if you wanted to try out your build for real and see what it's actually going to look like in the real Decentraland, well, you deploy it in Kusama's Decentraland, and then there you go. You get to actually play and test and do all that stuff without deploying in real life.
Mm.
So what's the purpose of that? Obviously for Decentraland, there's no real inherent purpose. But for other projects that are staking somebody else's money, you need to test and retest on a live network.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that for sure has to be part of your DD if you're
So
looking for like
yeah, for
truly
like
sound
DeFi,
projects.
yeah, DeFi tokens that are like legit.
Yeah.
I mean, especially in Polkadot, they better be on Kusama. They better be, have a functioning product on there, and even better if they haven't launched, then you're definitely on the ground floor.
Hmm. So are we gonna break that down from now on or nah?
No, yeah, I think we should.
Okay.
But it's like my question is, what's the method where we break this down? Like, is it going to be a
Yeah.
web page? Is it going to be a blog post? Are we going to make our Notion public for these research, the stuff that we research? I guess we could. I mean, why
Or
not?
we could just translate it into video format. All right, that's the most widely digested
Yeah,
thing, like what we're
absolutely.
doing right now.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you know what? That's a good plan because let's say, like for example, we pick Polkadot and we do a ton of research. We have all the links, all that stuff. We put it on Notion, and then for our next podcast, we just run through everything we've discovered. That way, we have like a full explanation of what Polkadot is, why it's important, and how it actually makes things better. And and then we just talk about it on the podcast.
I like that idea. So it's I mean, so this is definitely not going to be financial advice because if it was, we'd have to be much more timely, meaning like daily updates because this market moves so ridiculously fast. You don't have time to really
Yeah,
sit around and wait. Like if you're trying to catch price spikes, like
yeah,
that's not what we're gonna do. We're
yeah,
actually gonna look for like technological gems
yeah.
in the
Yeah,
so
we're. I think it's a more prudent exercise to find the next chain link. I mean, I'm not talking about find the next Oracle, but find the
yeah,
next
yeah, yeah.
valuable technological resource for the blockchain space. I think
Yeah.
that's more important than like because if these projects like actual have a value, they're going to increase in price anyways.
You're right.
So
So we'll do that in tandem with what we're already doing with Decentraland and
yeah, for sure.
uh, in the
Yeah, I mean this
blockchain
this goes to
gaming
the
space.
roots of the podcast. I mean,
Yeah.
this is not a Decentraland podcast. We have a Decentraland product for sure, but I mean there's a ton of things to talk about. Like we don't have enough time to like really go over everything,
Hmm.
and like all this stuff is interesting.
Yeah,
Like
it is.
we haven't even talked about Energy Web Foundation, the Energy Web token, and that in itself is like a several podcasts worthy of discussions.
Let's do it, dude. I'm down.
So yeah, so
I'm down to
here's
go
the,
balls deep into this world, dude. Like let's do it.
so here's the rundown. I think we should talk about Polkadot, and then we talk about Energy Web Foundation. Those are
Okay.
the two things that I see most consistently about everything.
Okay. Yeah. We'll do that. We'll start there. Uh, and then we'll make updates, I guess,
Yeah, yeah, and then
along the way.
yeah, for sure. But all right, I mean, I think that covers today's podcast. I mean,
Yeah,
we've been talking
it's,
for an hour.
it's like a re-intro into DeFi, pretty much. We're
Yeah.
re-immersing ourselves slowly into this world. You know.
But for sure, we did call this. What we didn't call was the fact that we are going to have speculative tokens connected to DeFi.
Yeah, so we missed like the boat on all of them, basically. You know,
uh,
it's life, dude. It's whatever.
hey, but we're not that late though. It's not like this is year 2022 where we completely missed the bull cycle
Yeah,
and we're like missing every shot that we took because we're not focusing on the right like sector of
yeah,
blockchain.
I agree. There's still lots of time, so
Yeah,
everyone listening, you guys are earlier than you think. You
yeah,
know,
for sure,
nothing to worry about,
for sure.
and don't get like anxious thinking like you're running out of time to like
Yeah, don't
cap.
FOMO in. Yeah, don't
Yeah,
FOMO in because you're
yeah,
gonna get wrecked. So,
exactly.
but yeah, so make sure you follow us at the Block Runner and also at MetaZone.io on Twitter. Like and subscribe on our YouTube channel, and we want to do. Man, we're gonna try to do this more often, man. Like once a week is not it's not cutting it, especially with like all this craze.
Well, I'm down, dude. I got the fucking whiteboard, dude. I'm waiting for you. We could do it after your Ethermon meeting, dude. Just let's break something down.
Okay,
Like,
yeah, let's do that. Let's do that.
okay. Actually, a little after because I gotta take a power nap, but
That's true. Yeah, that's a good point.
it's all right. We're gonna produce more content, dude, for sure. This is our content or part of it. So let's do it. I'm down.
Oh, you know what? So David, he said, I thought it would be on the East Coast by now, but I'm still on the West Coast. 1 p.m. Eastern. Oh, he still wants to talk today. At 12 o'clock Central.
Oh crap! Oh man.
No, maybe if we can reschedule it till tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Oof. Yeah, let me confirm some things first.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is like logistics talk right now at the end of the podcast.
Yeah, something. Yeah, we were supposed to have an interview, but
yeah, it's like time conflicts.
That's right. So we're readjusting.
Yeah.
But
anyway, yeah. So thank you guys for listening, and hopefully we will see you more often than every single week. But we'll see. All right, thanks, guys.
All right, guys. See you later.